Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Halliday Douglas. I'm the president and CEO of the St. Louis Public Schools Foundation. We are a nonprofit partner with St. Louis Public Schools. And what we do is we raise community dollars and invest them in district designated priorities, and particularly in areas where there are funding gaps. Our new work right now involves programming and investments in college and career opportunities, health and well-being, and teacher supports. I want to just say thank you so much for being here tonight. It really is an honor to be doing this in partnership with the League of Women Voters and the Parent Action Council for the district. They are really just tremendous and crucial stakeholders to just making sure that community happens with and around our schools. I want to particularly thank Nancy Thompson from the League of Women Voters, who will be actually serving as our moderator this evening. As you ask your questions, as you're listening, as you're reflecting, what's really important to note is that boards matter. We have about 19,000+ children attending our schools, and about 1 in 6 8th graders right now who are not necessarily reading proficiently. Right now is a must, and we have the resources that could move the district forward in the right direction, and we're moving along with a process of hiring a new superintendent, which also has the high hope and potential of moving the district forward, growing, or extending on the growth we've had for years now under Dr. Adams. But boards matter, because it's boards that make those leadership decisions. It's boards that decide, or this board that will decide, what does leader effectiveness look like, what are the priorities, and where the money to fund those priorities are going. Boards matter. So through this evening, I would really encourage you to just consider who's talking about kids, who's talking about hope, and who's talking about community. These are all very important things. And with that, I'm just going to turn it over.
Thanks so much, Halliday. And thank you, too, to Gloria Nolan from the school district, who has sort of been the liaison between the school foundation and the Parents Action Council and the school in order to get the building ready and so forth for us. So tonight we have already submitted to us a number of questions online, but if you would like to ask a question, then you need to simply raise your hand, and one of my colleagues from League of Women Voters will come and bring you an index card. You can write your question. Those will be brought to me at the podium periodically. I'm going to sort of tell you the ground rules here. I'm going to front load tonight all of the announcement kind of things at the beginning. So when we stop all of that, then we go right into the candidates. So candidates, just chill out for a second here. You know that this is an election for the St. Louis Public Schools School Board. You know that the voting is on November 8th. Now, this year, of course, there are some new wrinkles for you about how you can vote absentee, when and where you can vote absentee, where you can vote differently than where you voted just a couple months ago. So all of that has been condensed onto a paper that looks like this and like this. You see, it takes really 2 sides to tell you everything you need to know, city voters. And the League of Women Voters will have these handouts right outside the door for you. So with that, I won't go into all of that because that would take away from our time listening to the candidates. Okay, so one of the typical things that we do at League of Women Voters is we have already provided to these 5 candidates the ground rules for tonight, but just to keep them on their toes and so that you, the audience, understand what the ground rules are, I will go over them quite quickly because we don't seem to have a lot of people in the audience, so I imagine many of you have already been through this drill at least once. So the sponsor selected the time and date for the forum and found the location and invited the candidates. And we, the League of Women Voters, a nonpartisan group that does not endorse any candidates, we're sharing our league resources and providing a table outside, for the candidate materials. Those are not to be inside the room. We do reserve the right to ask seriously disruptive audience members or candidates to leave. That's only happened to me one time in the many years that I've been doing this. So we're going to trust that's not an issue. So the candidates will have 2 minutes each for an opening statement and then a closing statement. And then when I ask the questions, they have 1 minute each to answer each question at a maximum. They have the right to speak to all of the questions, including something that's posed to a different candidate. They should focus their remarks on what they believe and not really refer to an opponent or opponent's positions. And they should be, of course, respectful to all participants in the audience. The audience, that's you, will pose questions of general interest and cover issues, not personalities. The timekeeper is Victoria Turner here in the second row. There she is. She's a league member, and she's going to time all these opening statements, the candidates' answers to the questions, and the closing statements. So she's going to indicate to the candidates 30 seconds remaining with a yellow card toward the candidates. Now, sometimes we have 2 cards, a yellow one and a red one. So audience members, don't freak out because on the back side of the yellow, you're going to see red, which means stop. But the candidates are going to see the proper sign, okay? Everybody clear on that one? All right. And so my job is to explain the ground rules, read candidates' questions, retain the option to combine questions, sometimes reword questions, try to group questions together that are similar. Make sure that each candidate has an equal opportunity to answer and enforce the ground rules. We are not tonight live streaming this, but it is being video recorded. The video will later be on the website, and I think that's the Foundation's website. Is that correct, Gloria? The Foundation's website, and then even later than that, probably on the League of Women Voters website as well. Okay. Now, I think with that, we're close to being ready. Let's see. All right. I'm going to introduce them in the order that they are closest to me, and we'll use that order tonight. And I'm going to, when I first say their names right here at the beginning, I'm going to say it like it's on the ballot, okay? Then after that, I'll just be using their last name. So closest to me is Emily Hubbard. Next to her is David L. Jackson Jr., and then Donna R. Jones, the incumbent, William Bill Monroe, and at the far end there is Dr. J.L. Quinones. All right. So our usual procedure here is we will start with the opening statements in that order. Then as we ask the questions, we vary it so that we do not have the same person always answering the question first or last. All right, with that, I think we're ready to go. We have some good stuff here already, so let's just start. Let's go with the opening statements and begin with Ms. Hubbard.
Hi, my name is Emily Hubbard, and I am running for school board because I have 4 children in the school district. They are here tonight, and I did not tell the ones who were wearing their I Love SLPS shirt to wear them. They just did. because we love the district. When we moved here from Alabama in the very end of 2015, there were so many different choices. I was completely overwhelmed. And so we went to our neighborhood school where we knew that they would take us. And it's just, that school has loved our family for 6.5 years. And I'm so thankful for it. And so being a neighborhood school parent is different from being a magnet school parent. And I see lots of different things and want to make things better. I want to make sure that our new superintendent has leadership skills that lets him empower other people to do their jobs with confidence. And I want to make sure that we have neighborhood schools and magnet schools in ways that are equitable and actually benefit all of our children. My slogan is a school district that works for all. That's what I want to see, no matter where you go to school, what your zip code is. You can get what you need for your kid without having to fight a huge uphill battle. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson.
Good evening. My name is David Jackson, and I am a 50-year resident of the city of St. Louis. I graduated all 5 of my children from the St. Louis Public Schools. I graduated from Central High School in 1976. Out of all the kids that graduated, my toughest was my youngest son, who graduated from the alternative program, which I supported. I think alternative programs within the district is an excellent idea and a tool to help those kids that are either having a difficult time at home that they bring it to school. One of the reasons that I am interested in education, to me, education is instilled from my parents and grandparents that if you're going to be successful in life, at least get a 12th grade education. And that has been with me ever since. I'm 65 years old now, retired. That has stuck with me. And I want to make sure that the St. Louis Public Schools and the Board of Education brings education equity to the system. It seems like a lot of parents and folks, and I really, really seriously thank you for being here tonight, because that's one of the toughest things in any school district across the country, is to get parents involved with the schools. Not just at their school, not just at their child's classroom, but as a system in whole. The Board of Education meeting is very important, where it should be packed every evening, because those are the folks that are making decisions about the learning of your child. And that's what's important, the learning of your child. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jones?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Donna Jones. I've been a school board member for 16 years with the St. Louis Public School, and it's been a love affair. I have to say it like that. I've been a parent of SLPS, 7 SLPS students for over 30-some years with the district. And I currently have a granddaughter that is a student with SLPS as well. I have to say, I have stayed with SLPS because I realized when my children were in school that there were so many things that the school district needed to supply our students with. As a resident of Walnut Park, I saw the differences in the various schools from north to south. And I often wondered, what is going on really? Why is there such a difference? Why don't our parents come out, and why do they come out to to other schools and they don't make it in? And I started to notice many of my children's friends were passing away at an early age. And it seems like it's the norm now, and it seems like it's okay. And it's something that really bothered me as well. There's another reason. It just really bothered me that many of our students were graduating with just a diploma. I attended 11 graduations this year. I made sure that I hustled and got that, so I could look those students in the face, because I'm determined that we are going to make a difference in this school, in this school year. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Monroe.
Thank you. My name is Bill Monroe, and I'm a former St. Louis police officer. I've served on this board for 4 years prior to the time that the state were involved in that thing that going back and forth with the season control. I think that I'm really running because I see no sense of urgency in the current Board of Education in an effort to fight and combat what's going on in our city streets. As a young St. Louis police officer at 21 years of age, and I'm much older than that now, and I've never seen the streets as critically dangerous as it is now. And I think that the St. Louis Board of Education, the St. Louis Public Schools, is missing out. You're missing out on solution, because the solution is education, skills, and job training for our young people. Never before have I walked these streets and been afraid of our children. We're afraid of our own children. And there with the St. Louis Board of Education lies a solution. And I'm here to pursue a solution for our children. And perhaps one day we'll pick up the paper and the 13 and 14 and 17-year-old boys aren't dying in the streets because we'll have them in schools, teaching them trades, and teaching them and giving them the proper education and nourishment. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Quinones.
Mr. Quinones was my father. I'm Dr. Quinones.
I'm not good at it. I
That's
don't
okay.
know why, because I took Spanish. Don't
No,
take
that's
that
okay.
off his time. Don't take that off his time.
Oh,
Okay,
it's
now.
fine. It's fine. My name is Dr. J.L. Quinones. I am a proud neighborhood resident of Walden Park, where I spent the majority of my life. I am a proud graduate of Northwest High School from that same community. I'm also a very proud graduate of Howard University, where I went to pursue my higher level of education. I have served in the St. Louis City Schools as an athletics coach and an educator. I did that for 15 years. I have been an educational consultant since then. I also serve my communities as a chaplain. So as a church elder, I am in the trenches. I see everything that goes on. I am there when they are in the community. I am there when they are in school. I'm there when there are after-school programs. And I even have eulogized a lot of the students who have lost their lives and who are part of SLPS. The only thing I can say is that as a candidate, I just want to see this school district be better. No more small talk, no more playing politics with the kids. It's just for us, time for us adults to really stand on what we believe and return the district to where it needs to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now to the questions. We're going to begin with Mr. Jackson. And the first question is, how will the schools foster a safe space for Black boys and girls?
You know, that's one of the toughest thing to do is to protect our kids in schools. You can see that all over the country. Here in St. Louis, we have an opportunity because of the additional funding, the ARPA funds from the federal government. Currently, St. Louis Public Schools is sitting on about $140 million that the superintendent, whoever she or he may be, can utilize those funds to better secure our schools. My background is in security. I've worked with the previous security director who was here, Lisa Taylor. I'm looking forward, if I'm successful, to develop for sure, security programs for our schools. It can be done. I think we also need to look at how do we alert parents. Thank you.
Ms. Jones?
Would you please repeat the question?
How will schools foster a safe space for Black boys and girls?
Well, what I can say is what are facts, and the fact is that SLPS currently has a very good security system in place. They have been working with the St. Louis Police Department, with social workers, and developing a very good program to try to address the issues that our students currently face. Many of them are going to mental health issues, and one thing that I wanted to make sure that with all these different vendors that we are working with, that we start to take a look at all the data and make sure that every student is getting the services that they need to help them to understand where they can get the help that's currently available. There is a lot of help, but we need to let our students and our families know where the help is. So I believe we have a lot of things in place. We just need to communicate better. Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Monroe?
If I'm not mistaken, there was recently a young man who entered a high school and assaulted a young female in the restroom. If I'm wrong, somebody can correct me. And he walked past the people and they didn't have an ID set up to where they could ID the students. And I think that the St. Louis Public Schools, like so many other organizations, are suffering manpower problems. And I think we have to deal with that and use the electronics and other security devices to help and aid and make our schoolrooms safer for our children.
Mr. Quinones?
Can you please repeat that question again?
Sure. How will schools foster a safe space for Black boys and girls?
Thank you. Quite frankly, I believe that there was an indication of an improvement in that when in 2019 at the city budget meeting, I stood with Reverend Darrell Gray and the other elders from the Metropolitan Clergymen's Coalition for the Cure Violence Initiative. And the Cure Violence Initiative, which called for gun control, better policing policies within communities of need, that would work. However, something happened and it didn't. So we have to go back to the drawing board and we have to work together. A lot of the church leaders that I am aware of, they have already been doing those things, such as to provide safe havens for after school. So I believe that if we can do something to better foster that, it will help us.
And Ms. Hubbard?
So I, white mom of mixed race Black children, heard this question differently. Our school district is 80% Black, so yes, when we are doing safety and security things, that we are making schools a safe place. But for me, what this question means is that it's a safe place for my children to go to and not experience racism from their peers or from their teachers. And that has been the case at their elementary school, where it's pushing 90% or more Black. Their teachers, the majority of them are Black. So it is a place where they can be themselves and not worry. And when we switched to junior high or middle school, I was shocked to find that the only Black teacher for their middle school was a gym teacher. So if we can hire and retain Black teachers, I think that would help.
Thanks for stopping. Okay, the next question, we're going to start with Ms. Jones. I'm combining some because this is obviously a topic of interest. So it's, have you ever submitted an application to a charter school sponsor to open a charter school? If so, why do you want to be on this board? And is it advantageous to have a charter school proponent on the board? So it's 3 questions really, but for some of you it's only 1, all right? So let me try that one more time, because it's a lot. Have you ever submitted an application to a charter school sponsor to open a charter school? If so, why do you want to be on this board? And is it advantageous to have a charter school proponent on the school board? So now we're starting with Ms. Jones.
Yes, the answer would be to the first question, have I ever, it would be no. It would be no. And I certainly don't feel it would be advantageous to have anyone on the elected board who is working for charter schools, because it's just like, this is for St. Louis Public School. I just guess I feel a little prejudice with this. I feel like if you're going to be for SLPS, you need to be there 100%, and that's what our students deserve. Someone who is fully dedicated to the district, because after all, we represent this entire city, and we represent everybody, no race, gender, whatever it is that your issue is. We take care of everybody, and to privatize public education, I feel like it's a disservice to our entire city. Thank you.
Mr. Monroe?
I'll give you my answer. This is Bill Monroe standing in front of Thurgood Marshall, the first Black charter school in this city. Yes, I've been involved with charter schools. The other issue is, and so is our St. Louis Public Schools. The other night they had a citywide planning, and 2 elements spoke at that meeting: the St. Louis Public Schools and charter schools. Charter schools were originally designed for people like myself and like yourself to have an education initiative when your institution has failed you, and you have a right to pursue that. However, the charter school people who run the money have seen fit to deny Black men such as myself those monies that it takes to open a school. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks. Dr. Quinones?
The answer to that question is a resounding no. I've never been a supporter of charter schools. Yes, I've had many conversations with teachers who have worked in charter schools, but I have never been affiliated, nor will I be affiliated. And anyone sitting on a public school board that is a charter school proponent, I am not in support of. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Ms. Hubbard?
No, and like Ms. Donna, I think that it would be a conflict of interest for someone who is involved in charter schools to be in a public school board.
All right, Mr. Jackson?
No, I have never submitted an application for a charter school. I have been involved in trying to stop charter schools from opening in the city of St. Louis. Years ago, I started with 3 members of the Board of Aldermen to put out a moratorium to stop charter schools from opening. Unfortunately, 1 alderperson passed and 1 was voted out of office. One thing that we have to remember, charter schools are here to stay. They're created to do what public schools don't do. And, you know, I try to look at it all. One of the things that we have issue with in St. Louis Public School is foreign language. St. Louis Public Schools has performed terribly when it came to foreign language. But we have a charter school of foreign language here in the city of St. Louis that, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next question. We have a lot of interesting questions here. All right, next one. We'll start with Mr. Monroe. How does the closing of several Catholic schools impact the public schools?
Well, currently, I'm advised that the closing of St. Mary's on South Grand and Rosada Kane. And ask me that question again.
How does the closing of several Catholic schools impact the public schools?
Well, I don't think it has much impact on the public schools, because it's obvious that those who chose those schools, like St. Mary's and Rosada Kane, were looking for something that they couldn't get from the St. Louis public schools.
Okay. Dr. Quinones?
Thank you, I'm sorry. Thank you, Brother Bill. Can you repeat that question one more time, please?
Sure. How does the closing of several Catholic schools impact the public schools?
How does it impact it?
How does it impact
Well,
the public schools?
at my church, we have students in both public and parochial schools. There are several young men, their families are grief-stricken about the closing of St. Mary's. There's also students that we have at Roosevelt, two of them actually being two of my great-nephews. So does it impact the St. Louis public schools? Yes, it does. Because if parents are not trusting of the public school and its direction, and then that they're at a parochial school, then, you know, and they have to come back to that city school and deal with the same nuances every day. So it's a grave impact. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hubbard?
What might happen is that parents who felt safe putting their children in the Catholic schools that have a high minority population may not want to put them into the larger merged schools, so they might send their kids back to us. There are a lot of different reasons that people choose to use parochial schools. Obviously, if you're Catholic and you want your children to have a Catholic education, you'll do what it takes to continue that. But I think that, you know, the public school's job is to educate all the students, so we are prepared to, you know, take any and all of the students who want to come to us.
Mr. Jackson?
I personally don't believe the closing of those two Catholic high schools will have an impact on the St. Louis public schools. Those parents have decided that they do not want their children in a public school. However, I hate they close, because parents are now scrambling to see where they're going to send their children to school, and that's horrible. I even got on Facebook and said, I don't know why the schools didn't hold a parent meeting and get the parents to come together and go after the vouchers that are available for you to send your kids to school. I think both schools should have called those parents and asked those parents, how can you help? Because those vouchers are available. If every child in Rosada Kane applied for that voucher and received it, that's financially giving the archdiocese room to grow. Thank you.
Ms. Jones?
In my opinion, I don't believe that those two schools will have a major impact on SLPS, because our doors haven't closed. Our doors are wide open to any and everyone, regardless to your religious beliefs. We have students who are all different types of religions, foreign languages and everything else. So if those parents are really concerned about their children's education, we will not stop them from coming to SLPS. And one thing about it, we encourage them to join our PTOs, to become involved, and to add to the environment of SLPS, to make it the kind of school that they want to see, to share their knowledge and their experiences, to help make this public institution a much better place for everyone, and not just, I understand about being in a Catholic institution, but if you come in and you share, I think you'll make a great difference for everyone. Thank you.
Okay, next question. We'll begin with Dr. Quinones, and the question is, do you want to discontinue the entire magnet school program? In particular, do you support or oppose the continuation of the gifted-only schools?
The answer is no. We should continue. I think that the magnet schools have been one of the brightest spots of the district.
Okay. Next, we're going to Ms. Hubbard.
I think this question was made for me. I would like to reorganize the magnet schools. There's too many of them. We are busing children all over this city. If they were going to schools that were closer to their houses, we might not have the bus driver shortage that we're having right now. As well, in particular, the gifted schools. Again, our school district is around 80% black. The two gifted elementary schools are 60 and 70% white. Something is not working correctly there. I do have 2 children in the gifted middle school, and I would still be glad to see that whole program shut down and the kids that are able to achieve high IQ scores on those tests be integrated with the rest of our school district.
Mr. Jackson?
I actually support magnet schools and expanding the magnet school program. It amazes me when I was on the board that I could go to Block A and we have a successful school, and that school is a magnet school. We go 2 blocks over to Block F and we have a failing school. It makes sense to me. What could the magnet school that is 2 blocks away be doing so well that that school meets AYP every year? I think we need to expand the magnet school program. I think we have the capabilities and the financing to get it done, and it also helps us to establish neighborhood schools.
Ms. Jones?
I have to agree. I would like to see an expansion of the magnet school program throughout this community, but I would like to see many of the programs that are in the magnet school exist in our community schools and also in our neighborhood schools. And I'd also like to, instead of just having the gifted schools, I remember when my children were at McKinley and the other schools, instead of doing that, have a pull-out where they can go to a gifted class within their school. So you don't just have, you have to text in, because I know many really talented little kids and they take the gifted test and for some reason I'm surprised they fail. So it's something to me that's going on with the gifted test itself, because we have a lot of very intelligent children that should be deemed gifted as well. So I just think we need to have pull-outs at each school. Thank you.
Mr. Monroe?
I don't see a reason to touch something that's working. I would agree with investigating expansion and seeing what's working there and can work other places and can work in the communities that are catching a lot of heck.
Next question begins with Ms. Hubbard, and as board members must be fiscally responsible. We also have a severe teacher shortage. How do we recruit and keep enough high-quality teachers to educate our students as they deserve?
That's a really hard question. I really want to figure that out. That's why I want to be on the school board. But I think one thing that we can do is form as many relationships with these universities in town that have teacher programs, teacher education programs, get them to be student teaching in our schools, get them connected and hooked, and pay them as much as we possibly can. I know that we have this problem that many of our best and brightest teachers want to start families and maybe buy a house, and they can get paid so much more in the county. And you know, maybe we need to redo property tax so schools are funded more equitably. But we have to do whatever it takes to get there.
Mr. Jackson?
I developed a plan years ago to retain, reward, and recruit teachers who want to teach in the St. Louis Public Schools. One of the biggest issues that I found out when I went to the retirement ceremonies of the teachers, they didn't want to retire, but they felt they were not supported by the administration. I think there has to be an open door policy with the Board of Education and the actual teachers. We don't have to hear from the teachers union. We would listen to the teachers who are in the classroom. I think that is so important. When you have a teacher who cries that she has to retire because she feels that she's not getting the support in her classroom. You know, I wondered why St. Louis Public Schools was so top heavy with administrators, and I was told those administrators are supposed to be the support entities for the teachers, but you never see those entities in the classroom. Thank you.
Ms. Jones?
One way I think that we can address the teacher shortage is to start to really respect our teachers, because so many of them had voiced to me that they feel totally disrespected and they feel a big gap between 801 and the schools in general, and that people are not really listening to them. You know, you can drive a truck with a sack of potatoes on it and make more than some of our teachers do. And that is really an insult. It really is, because teachers are taking care of our treasures and the people who are going to be running this country one day. So that's the first thing, to start respecting our teachers and to pay them for their time and their service, and to make them feel like what they are, very, very important to this community. And the second thing that I want to address is the financial literacy. I really believe that it would be very important for us to add financial literacy to our curriculum in SLPS from kindergarten through 12th grade. And when those students graduate, they don't just walk across that stage with a diploma, but with a financial portfolio. Thank you.
Mr. Monroe?
I think I read an article where they were rating our teachers and their salaries across the United States, and I think, were we 49th? What, can anybody, were we 49th?
Okay, Dr. Quinones?
Well, the answer to the question of the teacher shortage, I think we got a good start with Senate Bill 681 that has actually been very helpful. I've seen many young men and young women being recruited as the next generation of educators, which is fantastic. I actually have spoken to some of those students that came from Save Our Sons program. So it was wonderful to see those young men now become teachers, some of them from the same communities of SLPS. So that is a good start, and we must expand upon it, I believe. And I think that's a great way to get things rolling the right way. Thank you.
Okay, next question begins with Mr. Jackson. Why are the dilapidated schools in St. Louis City being turned into apartments and not reopened for education for St. Louis children?
Good question. I no answer for that. I mean, you know, once the school building closed, you have to do something with it. What I wanted to do was, and I talked to the special administrative board about this when they were in governance, because it costs so much to retrofit a school into apartments, I thought the school district need to be a partner with that developer to have another funding source for our schools. Because if these buildings are selling for $2 and $3 million, that $2 and $3 million can come back into the school district along with that monthly fee that is being charged for the property. We have to do something with the buildings. You've seen when you drive through the city the crumbling of these buildings, these beautiful, beautiful buildings. We have to do something with them. There's going to be more school closing. If I'm elected to the board, I'm going to be sitting on a board that's going to come back to you and tell you why certain schools must close.
Ms. Jones?
Well, I have to be honest with you, while I'm on the board, I certainly don't want to come to you and tell you about the closings of another school. What I want to see is to talk to you about the new schools that we're going to be opening, about the new programs that we're going to do, about the new vision that we have for SLPS. And those dilapidated buildings, I am one of the persons now that I'm on the real estate board. So we're taking a look at these buildings, the ones that are crumbling, they need to come down. And we need to re-envision what we're going to do with that property, whether we can make it something financially feasible for the district or create play areas, educational areas for our students where they can take advantage of that. We also, instead of just closing our buildings down, we can take a look at those buildings and start talking about expansion of new programs that will bring new people and new children into the district. So I'm looking for a new vision. Thank you.
Mr. Monroe?
Sadly, taking care of these buildings have not been on the front page of the Board of Education for more than several decades. And as one who lives, I live in the area of Union and Maple. And those of us in my community pass vacant schools. If you go 2 or 3 blocks either way, you're going to pass a vacant, crumbling building. And I think that we are currently, and I have, when I say I, Bill Monroe, I've asked the St. Louis Public Schools to help deal with several of these school buildings that can be funded through the American Rescue Plan. There's money right now where we can save several of these buildings and educate our children. But the St. Louis Public School is going to have to agree to be transparent and deal openly and fairly with the community. And they don't.
Dr. Quinones?
Could you repeat that question one more time, please?
Sure. Why are the dilapidated schools in St. Louis City being turned into apartments and not reopened for education for St. Louis children?
Basically stated it's urban redevelopment. That's what's going on. The buildings are, not fit to be standing as it has been deemed by our elected officials. So they have sold off the property so that, housing available for those who are looking to relocate to St. Louis. This is why this has happened.
A rebuttal?
No.
No rebuttal? Okay.
Ms. Hubbard?
We can't change the dilapidated buildings back into schools because we don't have children to put into the buildings. It's unfortunate, but what is it? We've lost 40,000 children. I mean, moving, they haven't died. The child population has dropped 40,000 from 2000 to 2020. That's a lot of empty buildings. So we need to figure out how we can keep families in the city. I would love to work with the city to get affordable housing for families so that a family with 4 children can afford to live in the city and not have to have a slumlord landlord to do it. And if we can get stable housing, then we'll have less student mobility and things will be better.
Next question, we'll start with Ms. Jones. Do you support or oppose the teaching of evolution? How about contraception instruction in high school?
Would you repeat that?
Do you support or oppose the teaching of evolution? How about contraception instruction in high school?
That's a doozy. Okay. Well, when it comes to the teaching of evolution, I support the teaching of history. And whatever history that the teacher has on the books, then they should teach it. And if the parent is opposed to whatever the curriculum is, then I think the parent should get involved. When it comes to contraception, I think that's a family matter and it's personal. And I don't know in terms of the school teaching contraception, but I think that it starts with the family, and that permission should be gotten from the parents.
Mr. Monroe?
If I can remember back that far, I graduated from Sudan in '64. And I think we had health classes, if I'm not mistaken. We had health, we had home ec, and we were taught things that would be life-saving in health class. And I think that we need to teach our children that which it takes for them to survive this world that we're involved in now, that is ever more changing. And we have to adapt to it and give them that which they can survive. And in teaching that in a classroom and teaching the truth about our history, I'm just learning now about the death of black men and women at the hands of racists and hanging, and I'm just now finding out some history that I didn't know. And I'm 77 years old.
Dr. Quinones?
At the time I was in school, they called it specialized curriculum learning. I'm not opposed to that if it is in that term. However, it has to be something that's structured. Thank you.
Ms. Hubbard?
Well, I'm going to have to explain what contraception is now to my kids. So, I do support a full-bodied, that's awkward, sexual education for high school students. I think under the terms of Missouri law, it has to be abstinence first, but it's not abstinence only. We need to make sure that kids are prepared for the lives that they have. I'm also fine with teaching evolution in schools.
And Mr. Jackson?
I support whatever the parents support. I think you have to see all the data and all the information before you can make any type of informed decision. So I'm sure that the school district would notify the parents of that particular curriculum, and whatever the parents decide, that's where I'm leaning toward. But I also got to go back to spending money on vacant school buildings. Every dollar that comes into the school district should be spent in the classroom. We do not have money to keep spending on keeping these buildings from crumbling. If they're crumbling, let them go. That's one of the reasons that we passed the Proposition S that gave the school district $160 million to build new schools. That's the way you do it. These schools are well over 50, 60, 80, 100 years old. They're crumbling. We have to let them go. Like I said, if we can partner with the developer to get some of that money back on a continual basis, that's the way that we need to move forward. Thank you.
Okay. Next question will begin with Mr. Monroe. How would you like to see the district improve special education training for teachers?
I'm not sure I can answer that, but what I know about the teachers and what their training currently is, I'm not sure I can address that adequately.
Dr. Quinones?
Repeat that question one more time, please.
Sure. How would you like to see the district improve special education training for teachers?
More partnership programming with mental health institutions or nonprofit organizations, as well as with advocates. I think that would be a first start.
Ms. Hubbard?
I would like to see our regular classroom teachers taught to recognize, the hints and clues of, okay, this kid might need a little more help, and be taught how to advocate for that student to get what they need. I've had so many friends talk about the struggle that it is to get IEPs or that other number for their children. And then I know that we don't have as much money as the county, but we have to do something to get children the services that they're legally entitled to.
You have an answer now, Mr. Monroe?
Yes.
Go for it.
There was an article in the paper on the front page of the Post today, and they made mention of the fact the total lack of black psychologists in the public schools. And perhaps there's a problem when the student can't be advised or counseled by someone who might have a closer understanding of what he or she is undergoing. And that lack of black psychologists or psychiatrists in the schools may be an issue.
Mr. Jackson?
I think there has to be a lot of serious thought into putting that additional training with the regular classroom teacher. There is IEP programs within the district, and there is IEP coordinators that work in the schools with the child. But I wouldn't look at providing or stressing more training in that area for the classroom teacher. I actually think that the St. Louis Public Schools should join with the special school district to help our kids. I think they have done an excellent job for many, many years. They make AYP every year. No parents has sued the district because their child has not received any IEP. St. Louis Public Schools has received several different lawsuits because we did not provide IEP. So, no, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jones?
I actually have an issue with the services that we are providing. We're providing tons of vendors in terms of special education training to in our professional development program. But what I'm having a problem with is the data collection and the ability of our teachers and our parents to go back and analyze the data that we are receiving. And I think if we were able to analyze the data, we would have a better look at the students and their future and what kind of services they really need. Because we have lots of services, but I just don't think that we have put those services to good use. And we are outsourcing way too many of our services. And if we would bring them in-house, I think it would make a big difference in everything that we do. Thank you.
Next question begins with Dr. Quinones. As a school board member, did I do that wrong? Did you start last time?
Yes, I did, I believe, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what I thought. Okay. So now we start with Ms. Hubbard. And as a school board member, how will you ensure that you stay focused on your governance role and not interfere with the work of the superintendent and administration in the day-to-day management of the district?
I have 4 kids and a part-time job. I don't have time to mess with the superintendent. The role of the school board is governance, and that's what I want to do. We set the policy. I want to set the policy. We can't. We hire the superintendent. If he or she doesn't do his job, then we can fire him. So that's my answer.
Mr. Jackson?
That's a tough question because school boards across the country are changing. The Missouri School Board Association says that traditional schools boards are becoming a thing of the past. Normally, you evaluate your superintendent once a year, and it's at the end of the school year. It's too late. It's too late. Most superintendents have 2- and 3-year contracts. So if your superintendent hasn't been successful the first year, he's only got 2 more years to make a change or make a difference. So school boards have to work more closely together with the superintendent and give him benchmarks throughout the school year and come back so you can come to the board here and hear how every school is doing through the superintendent. And you have to hold them accountable. School boards give the superintendent directives. If those directives aren't followed, then we need to look at replacing the superintendent.
Ms. Jones?
I actually believe that, I don't believe in micromanaging, but I do believe in having a weekly update from our superintendent about what's going on. Because if you don't have a weekly update, then how are you understanding the progress of the district? And I agree with Mr. Jackson, after that, it might be too late. So I don't believe in micromanaging. We hired the superintendent to do his job, but I do believe that it's important that he reports in on a regular basis what is actually going on in the district so that we can contact the right people and develop the right policies. If we have to put something together immediately to address the issue, then that's what we need to do. Thank you.
Mr. Monroe?
I don't believe in micromanaging superintendent. And I think the board has to understand you have one major employee, and that's the superintendent.
Dr. Quinones?
A superintendent's job is hard enough, but also as a school board member, it is a tough task. I do truly believe that the school board should hold the superintendent accountable with updates, evaluation periods, so that we can be assured that the district is in the proper hands of the superintendent that is selected. Thank you.
Okay, next question begins with Mr. Jackson. How would you like to see individual school fundraising become equitable, or do you think that the current system is already equitable? In other words, this fundraising that each school does.
You know, that's pretty tough. I kind of, when it comes to fundraising, and when it comes to the laws of fundraising, you have to be very, very careful. And currently, some of our schools, they be having fundraisers, and some of the laws are not being followed, and there's a lot of issues at that school with those funds. And so I would like it to be centralized with the St. Louis School Foundation. I think every school should have a relationship with that foundation, and so we can have a control, and also so we can have an educated arena of principals or PTAs that are utilizing fundraising activities. As long as we have a focal point to steer that to, I think it could be very, very successful. Thank you.
Ms. Johns?
Right now, the district is working on a parent university, and they're working really hard. We have a parent action committee as well that we're working to bring all the different schools together, but there is a problem with different schools having funding issues. That's because some neighborhoods have more monies than others. And so I think once we come together, we can try to figure out how to make sure that each particular school receives adequate funding to encourage our parents to come and participate, because some schools do have really good participation and a lot of them don't, especially in neighborhoods of color like mine. I'm from Walnut Park. So we have a hard time getting parents out late in the evening. A lot of parents feel like it's dangerous because we're currently under gentrification. People don't recognize that in the city of St. Louis. And so this is why we're having some serious issues. Thank you.
Mr. Monroe?
Let's hear that question again.
Sure. How would you like to see how would you like to see individual school fundraising become equitable, or do you think that the current system is already equitable?
I agree with Ms. Donna Jones and the parents. It's going to have to come with the parents' involvement. And they're going to have a collaborative where they get together so that things don't get out of hand with money. So there's going to have to be a parent committee. I agree with her. And some of them are not going to be equitable, like in some of the communities that we know. The funds are not going to be there. And how do we make up for it? I don't have that answer.
Dr. Quinones?
As a parent who had 4 children that attended St. Louis Public Schools and saw the fundraising efforts, I would say that a sharing system should be in place for equitable sharing among schools, even those who may not have the resources to have the funding in place that they desire. But if there are over 6 or 7 schools in one community, then it should be partnerships to help that it be a sharing of those equitable funds. Thank you.
Ms. Hubbard?
The current system is definitely not equitable. Our elementary school does not have a PTO. We don't really fundraise. So we don't have, any funds to do good things for the teachers. I bring snacks for them sometimes, but we don't have a full organized effort. I was shocked and appalled, frankly, when we got to McKinley, which the gifted middle school, and the middle school PTO budget was either $23,000 or $26,000. They have families that will have matching donations. They're fundraising right now. There's a 500 match. If they can get 500, the school will get 1,000. It's not right. We gotta fix it.
Okay, next question begins with Ms. Jones. About how many of the 62 St. Louis public schools have you personally visited?
Well, over the years, I believe I've visited just about all of them. I really have. I've gone inside, even the ones that were vacant. I took that tour, walked over that broken glass, all of that. Went inside, did a video, yeah. I went to visit. I wanted to see the asbestos, the lead hanging down, and I wanted to see how beautiful our schools were as well, because we have some wonderful schools, but a lot of them have issues, and so how can I represent a board and I don't know what I'm talking about if I haven't been there? Thank you.
Mr. Monroe?
Over the years, I visited the majority of the vacant buildings and doing a documentation of these structures. And I've been involved with the St. Louis Public Schools for more than 2 decades. I couldn't tell you how many schools I've visited.
Dr. Quinones?
I've been around long enough. I've been to every last one. Thank you.
Ms. Hubbard?
I've only been here for 6.5 years, and I think I'm trying to count it up, probably 5 or 10. But I want to visit all of them if it won't disrupt the schools.
Mr. Jackson?
During my 2 terms on the board, I visited every school, even the ones that we know that they were closing. And I'd like to go back to the last question too, because you need to really understand that the Board of Education is supposed to have only one employee, and that's the superintendent. However, what you don't know is the board also approves and hires every principal, not the superintendent. That is important. And that's one of the reasons why the Missouri School Board says traditional boards are changing. They have to change because we have to ensure that the right people are learning our kids. And we got to make sure that our superintendent is doing what we laid out for him. He has a plan that the board gave him. If he's not producing, if he's not performing, then we need to decide to do something different, and we can't wait a year. Thank you.
Okay, next question begins with Mr. Monroe. And it is, what will you do to increase enrollment in St. Louis Public Schools?
That's a very difficult question for one board member because I don't have that answer. What would I do to increase enrollment? And given the failure of our public schools, especially in our St. Louis community, I don't have that answer. I really don't have that answer. But I do think that the public schools must get deeply involved with parents. We were talking with Ms. Jones earlier, and I said, how do you get the parents to come to the school board meetings in some of our communities? Should we put taco trucks outside and feed the kids and while parents come to the school board meetings? And we kind of laughed, but I don't have a total answer.
Dr. Quinones?
Continue to improve the quality of the school district. That's how we start. Make sure that they feel comfortable and they have a voice up on the school board. The parents are tired of being not heard. Give them community schooling as they see fit. Thank you.
Ms. Hubbard?
Well, I would like to set a policy that we are a district that has pride in who we are. And there's so many good things happening in the district that somehow the stories don't get out about. And that has to change. I've been really happy over this summer. I mean, you can see my two kids wearing the I Love SLPS shirts. To see those signs all over town, it made me so happy, and it reminds people that we do have a school district here, and that you can be a part of it, and you can love it. When we moved here, people told us nobody goes to public schools, and what they meant was nobody that's middle class goes to public schools. And we need to correct that misperception. We're middle class. Our kids have done fine at their neighborhood schools.
Mr. Jackson?
It's quite simple. Learn our kids. Improve the learning. Talk about it. Share it with the community. Share our successes. St. Louis, back in 2018-19, they had the best program to let the community know what successful schools we had out there. We did an excellent job. Enrollment actually increased because of those billboards, because of the signs on the bus, because if you look at the bottom of the St. Louis American, we bragged about our schools. We need to talk about what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how successful we are.
Ms. Jones?
I believe it's really, really important that we put that sign out that says welcome. And when you have buildings that look old and dilapidated, I think it sends a signal to our young people that you really don't care. And when we start, if you put millions of dollars into a soccer stadium and you can go build all these brand new things in just a short period of time, surely you can make these schools look like a beautiful place that they don't even want to go home in the evening time. And so that's when you know you're being successful, when the students, when you have to push them out the door. So I think that we really need to work on the facilities, we need to work on the school environment, we need to offer courses that parents and students actually want to take. Just like, say for instance, the trades. We're talking about a trade school over at Northwest. We're talking about biomed, having their own school. We're talking about programs that students want and need. People will come and search you out. Build it and they will come. And so that's my thinking. Thank you.
Okay, this will be the final question, I think, that we'll have time for. So we start with Dr. Quinones, and the question is, school board officers are elected in April. What is your assessment of the current board leadership, and how do you see yourself working with them?
The current state of the board needs to improve, needs to be more transparent and more accountable. Elected to the board, I would continue to foster the right kind of relationships that the board could be those things. Thank you.
Ms. Hubbard?
Well, I ran for school board last April and didn't win, but I've been so impressed by the work that the current board has done. The legislative committee getting the state to care about our school district and knowing that we're here and we care about it and we vote. I've been really impressed with that. The citywide plan for education, taking the power that we have as the school district for all the kids, that's a really big deal. And so I would be so excited to join them. And I'm 6 of 7 children, so I know how to work together and to use my, find out where I can be the most helpful and go do it so that things are better for our kids.
Mr. Jackson?
I think the current Board of Education is in good standing. There are a few issues, but every board has a few issues. But I think the board that is there now is a board that can work together. They're working together if you watch their actions. My only concern is I haven't seen any of the board members present anything different and new. The only thing that I've seen is when something is presented to the board, they either vote on it one way or the other and move on to the next meeting. I would like to see a board that actually would let us know, what are you thinking? What are your plans? Present it at the open meeting so we'll know what the superintendent does when you give it out. I see myself, and I was recently on the other 2 boards, we worked very well together. We just didn't talk at the board meetings. We talked after hours. Thank you.
And Ms. Jones?
Well, we have a SLPS TV station, and I'm really hoping that the district can take advantage of that to get more information out at the board about whatever the board is working on. But I like my board members. I think we work well together, and I think that they have vision, and I'm just looking forward to all the new changes that are going on. And I really appreciate Mr. Davis and Ms. Cousins, all the hard work, and along with Ms. Nolan, going up to Jefferson City and leading the pack, taking groups of parents up there to fight for legislation in regards to SLPS. We've done it over the years, and they've continued and done a bang-up job. And so I'm really liking my board members. Thank you.
And Mr. Monroe?
Regrettably, I filed 3 different sunshine complaints against this board for not being inclusive, for not being transparent, and not being very friendly in public comment. The public comment is for the public to come by and talk to this board, but you're shoved off. You have to sit up in a 3.5-hour meeting in order to speak to the board, and then you're rushed off and you don't get an answer in your questions that you ask this board. I'd like to see this board user-friendly to the parents and to those that speak to them.
Okay, folks, that's about all the time that we have for questions. We have 10 final minutes here for the closing statements. So candidates, compose yourselves. If you didn't get to say everything you wanted to about a particular topic, or I didn't let you rebut, now would be your opportunity to sneak that into your closing comments. So as is our tradition, we go in the opposite direction for the closing comments. So now we begin at the far end of the table with Dr. Quinones.
Was there a question to this, or no?
No. This is a closing statement of your choice. You have up to 2 minutes.
Okay. Simply put, I have seen the decades of struggle in the SLPS. I've seen it firsthand. I've been there. I've seen the good, the bad, the indifferent. Some good things, some bad things. Yet it must improve. The community needs to be heard. They must feel like the board and the district itself overall is for them. Some don't. My question is simply, what can we do to be better? We must work together, one way or the other. The infighting, bickering, the politics playing, it needs to stop. Voice of reason, I will be, plain and simple. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Monroe?
I filed for this board, a position on this board, because the community hasn't been heard. And I hear our current board president and Ms. Cousins talk about a plan, a citywide plan. And this same citywide plan is not inclusive of community. I went to the last citywide plan, and the only thing they were speaking was the charter schools and some people talking about their PhDs and what have you, and the community is not allowed a seat at the table. And until such time the community comes to the table, nothing's going to be better. Nothing. And our children are suffering in these streets. They're dying, they're being carjacked, they're crying out for our help. They're crying out for new and innovative methods of teaching and training and education, and we're not reaching it. And we don't have until 2023. We need to approach it with a sense of urgency. Thank you.
Ms. Jones?
Most recently, everybody understands that the city of St. Louis received almost $500 million toward renovations. But I have yet to see anything happen. What would make a big difference in St. Louis Public School? Affordable housing. We're not looking for apartments. I know Emily mentioned that. I'm really tired that I live in this city and I voted, I vote all the time. But I can't find the kind of help that I need to take care of my home. And the people who are sitting in this community, who vote every day, who get up and go to work every day, they want to see something for their money. They don't want to have to wait anymore. And if our neighborhoods improve, then our schools will improve. That makes all the difference in the world. Now, how can a school grow and get better if there are no people living in the neighborhood? Now, where I live in, there is not one high school on the other side of Highway 70. That is really an insult. And so really, we are working on that really hard as a board. And I'm sorry that people don't feel like we're being transparent, but I promise you that we are hearing you. And I hear you. I'm part of the neighborhood. I don't live in a wealthy, ritzy kind of place. I live in Walnut Park on Goodfellow, at Goodfellow. So if anybody knows where that is, you know what I'm talking about. So we are under gentrification. The neighborhoods were cleared out, and everybody seemed to not have a problem with it. We have children dying. Dr. Adams sends us reports on the children that have lost their lives. and it's business as usual. Nobody's saying anything. All of that affects SLPS. And what I'm saying, what is going to make the difference is everybody do something. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, stand up and make a difference. I don't have any money. This is not a paid position. This is a position I paid with from my heart because I care. And I shed tears when I see all this murdering going on and all our children dying. So let's make a difference. Vote for Donna Jones. Thank you.
Mr. Jackson?
Help me help you. The children should be our focus. The classroom should be our focus. Our school district right now is sitting on $780 million. The city of St. Louis is sitting on an additional $560 million, with $500 million coming at the first of the year. Part of that money is supposed to go toward educational issues. But guess what? The mayor's office does not have a relationship with the Board of Education. So she's not going to put a dime of the city money into the board, into the school system. Unfortunately. And as a taxpayer, I stress, call the mayor, ask her about it. Ask her how much money has she earmarked for the St. Louis public schools out of the $1 billion that she's getting from the federal government. The Board of Education has to do it on its own. And they've got to think outside the box. There's no more traditional school boards. Even the politician says that's a political district, but they don't think political. We need to vote for folks who support public education. If you can imagine, myself and a previous board member went to Jefferson City and polled all the legislators. We were amazed at how many were former teachers and administrators. And that's why we were able to get in and to meet with every one of them. Please, my name is David Jackson. I'm the last candidate on the ballot on November 8th. I left some flyers in the lobby that tell you what I did the 8 years I was on the board. Thank you.
Ms. Hubbard?
I think it's really important. We've been talking about failing schools and successful schools. And it's real important to say what we're counting as success. If we're just talking about test scores, we know that, for one, we test our students too much. For two, most of these tests are biased and they don't give a true picture of what's really going on with the child. One of my daughters told me, I don't know if it was STAR tests or MAP tests, but some of her classmates just clicked through and were done in 5 minutes. So whatever was measuring did not get measured. Our student population is roughly 20% homeless. If we're thinking about success, I think success for those students is knowing that school is a place where they can go and be safe and fed and loved, and if they can't figure out what's supposed to happen next, the school will help them. That's what I want to see. I want to see a school district where children know that they are safe and loved. And the school district cannot fix all the problems. The city needs to fix a lot of things. I just wish I could say everything Miss Donna said. +1 for me. But we do need affordable housing for families. How can we have so many homeless children in this city? There is so much wealth. We should repent and make it right. And I want to be part of that. I've got another decade in the school district. I would like for it to survive. Public school is a public good. I want to make sure it's good for all kids. Thanks.
Thank you so much, audience. Thank you, candidates. Thank you, Public School Foundation and Parent Action Council. I appreciate your attentiveness. Do we have another essential comment, Mr. Monroe?
Vote for Bill Monroe.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I think, yes. I think all of them want you to vote for them. You can, however, vote for 2, maximum. Vote on November 8th. If you're voting in person, if you're voting absentee, you have other options. See our league table outside if you don't understand the rules about absentee voting right now. Also, the league people in the room will be just delighted to talk to you about League of Women Voters if you think this work of voter education is something that you would like to participate in. Otherwise, thank you for putting up with us this evening, and I hope this gives you a better clue about who to vote for. Good night.